Welcome to Yoga Therapeutics. This is a free mini course presented by Lasater.yoga. I'm Lizzie Lasater, and joining me today is our co-conspirator, the great Mary Richards. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Lizzie.
This mini course is also being co-taught by Mama Judith Hanson Lasater, who will appear in the next video. But I want to ask you, Mary, what is yoga therapeutics? And before you answer that, I want to tell our viewers that we are developing a full-length yoga therapeutics course. And if you're interested in that, the place to go is the link below to get on our new Moon Mail newsletter. And you will be the first to hear about early bird pricing for that upcoming course. Mary, what is yoga therapeutics?
Okay, so let me first say that I have a master's of science in yoga therapy, and I'm a member of IAYT, International Association of Yoga Therapists, and I define yoga therapeutics a little differently. Okay, because I believe all yoga has the potential to be therapeutic, because the key to yoga therapeutics is the individualization of the practice. It's that we teach people, not poses. That's that's really the crux of the matter.
That is the name of Mary's book. This was not going to be product placement, but when she said that, I just grabbed her book, Teach People, Not Poses, published by Shambhala. It's a fantastic book, which really outlines your philosophy of teaching, right, Mary?
Yeah, which is that we study anatomy so that we learn more about ourselves, so that we are better able to adopt and adapt yoga practices to support our self-care.
So, who are we speaking to in this course? I'm thinking it's for yoga teachers, it's for serious students, it's for curious yogis. I've heard the phrase yoga therapy around a lot. Is there a difference between yoga therapy and yoga therapeutics?
Oh, Lizzie, I so don't want to get into trouble today. And we know that that is really an intellectual imposition because I really do want to get into trouble all the time. Okay, so yoga therapy is a term that has been used to describe the use of yoga techniques to empower individuals to improve their health, whether it's physical, spiritual, emotional, or psychological health. Okay. In my opinion, that's really an inaccurate division of yoga into like an insurance code model. Okay? Because the whole point of yoga is what? To quiet or pacify the modulations of our monkey minds so that we remember who, what we are, which Tatmamasi, I am that. I am everything. We are everything, right? So, this idea that yoga can be broken down into this is for low back pain, this is for cranky knees or adhesive capsulitis is really an intellectual construct. It simplifies things. So I believe yoga therapy as a tool is an oversimplification of yoga as an eightfold path toward spiritual liberation. And that why it's important to think about the therapeutic application of yoga practices through adaptive asana, through pranayama, the breathing exercises, the meditative tactics that we use, is because the more connected we become to how we feel in our bodies, the more aware we become of our thought patterns, our thought habits, our feeling habits, our emotional habits, the closer we get to our true selves and our ability to liberate ourselves from the ties that bind us.
Okay, so good. You touched on it a little bit. I have two more questions for you. Why do yogis need to learn more about anatomy? Because anatomy feels intimidating slash boring slash dry, if I'm honest. But you are such an advocate and you do have a really juicy teaching style when you teach anatomy because you're so enthusiastic. But why do you think it helps yogis and yogi teachers to learn more about anatomy?
We have to know where we are. When you plug in, you're going somewhere, right? When you plug in a location to your map app, you have a starting point and an end point, and then it gives you all the steps along the way. That's what anatomy is. The more we know and are able to label with precision, with accuracy, our body parts, whether it's bones, menisci, the shoulder capsule, whatever it is, the more we know about ourselves, the more we have the potential to learn. And it's important to know where things are happening and to know what they're called, because then we can name things, we can speak. Because the body in and of itself doesn't have words. It has sensations, but how do we translate those sensations and feelings if we don't have a language for it? And that's what anatomy gives us. It gives us a language.
Yes, exactly. And I would add, having studied with you for many years, you and mom, I think that it helps me to connect, to be more articulate about the sensations in my body, to understand more clearly what is going on and where it's to name where it's going on, first to myself to understand it. And then if I need to communicate with a healthcare professional or with my yoga teacher, I feel more literate in my body the more I learn about anatomy.
Yes, and this is so important for yoga teachers because we're inviting people to create these sacred geometric shapes, and everybody's different, just like everyone else. And so we need to be able to know what we're looking at so that we can offer specific instructions that suit the individual, because we're not trying to fit people into a pose, we're trying to fit the pose into the person, you know?
That makes total sense. And I've seen it for years, this kind of belief system that many yoga teachers have. I was guilty of it at the beginning as well, that somehow I believed the poses themselves held some kind of magical power, and that if I could just press my students, squeeze the round peg into the square peg into the round hole, that I could just, if I could get them into the pose in the right way, regardless of sort of how it felt for them, that that would have some healing power. And now I see it, having worked with you and mom for so long, I see it from like the reverse direction. That it's like, okay, what body are we playing with today? And how can they express triangle pose in a way that makes sense for them and doesn't create pain, and in a way that's going to support health?
Yeah, exactly. Because see, the poses already live within us. Like if you look at babies, babies are natural yogis. They,
Yeah.
I mean, heck, we have a pose called Ananda Balasana, happy baby pose, right? And so the asana lives within us. And the more we study anatomy, the more we kind of get the lay of the land and we're able to describe the land, well, then we are getting out of the way of the asana so that it can arise organically within our space.
Yeah. Okay, this is a perfect segue to my last question here in our introduction. You teach a lot about natural body intelligence. It's a big part of this yoga therapeutics course that we're developing. Mama is right with you on this. What is natural body intelligence? Why is it important for yogis to cultivate?
So our bodies inherently know how to move in the context of gravity. We don't actually, when we're little, we don't actually coach babies how to crawl. They go through this developmental movement cycle that perpetuates, through our full growth cycle. Okay. See that we already know how to move. The thing is, we have all of these ideas then, the older we get, that impose themselves between the body and its expression. And those ideas are related to gender roles, um, caste or class systems, etc. And they
I would
are
also say, to jump in, restrictions of clothing. Like,
boom.
there's a lot of movements I can't make in my street clothes that I can do in my yoga clothes.
Yes, exactly. So all of these social constructs that we've imposed between our bodies and our movement get in the way of our body's ability to do what it does, which is move. If we just think, for instance, about the so-called simple act of standing, which a lot goes into standing, right? But how many of us have been taught to stand up straight? And yet there's not a single straight line in the body. So if we just look at the body, if we look at the structure, the more anatomy we learn, the more we realize how our natural shape predisposes us to movement, and that when we impose these ideas about what we should look like or what we should be doing or what triangle pose should look like, that actually creates a veil of illusion between our body's natural intelligence and our lived experience.
Okay, absolutely 100%. This was so fabulous, Mary Richards. Tell us where we can find you on the internet.
You can find me at yogawithmaryrichards.com, Yoga with Mary Richards on Instagram, etc.
Okay. And I want to let everyone know that I personally see all the comments on my YouTube channel. So please comment below how you enjoyed this series, this free mini course from Lasater.yoga. And we hope that you will jump onto the newsletter, the New Moon Mail. That's the place you're going to find out about the early bird pricing. I'll say enjoy the mini course. Big namaste to you. Thank you so much, Mary.
Thank you, Lizzie.